Kirby's copy abilities, true icons of the franchise. But damn it, why is Fire Kirby's head on fire? Let me explain why, as I explain the origins of every Kirby copy ability hat, ever. Well, not exactly. I won't be covering unlockable hats in this video from spin-offs, or the anime abilities. Without further ado, here are my best explanations for every ability. Let's start off with Dear God Anything But a Hat. Here we have Balloon Kirby, Light Kirby, Love Stick Kirby, Crystal Gun and Ribbon Kirby, Rainbow Sword Kirby, Star Rod Kirby, Triple Star Kirby, Master Kirby, Parasol Kirby, Smash Bros Kirby, and Mini Kirby. Get out. Actually, come back, Parasol. You have the same Parasol as Waddle Dees and Doos in some games. Okay, go away now. This next section is just a bunch of abilities that all share the same setup of element plus crest or crown. First up is Fire, which is obviously on fire because he has the fire ability. His crest resembles flames, which sure is something, but what about his cooler cousin Burning, who has been brutally assimilated into fire since 2011? He has had the same setup, but the fire is moved to his hands, and instead of a gem, he just has a gem that looks like a fireball. Oh, and in Fire's Nightmare and Dreamland portrait, he is wearing a Kiko adornment because he is fire dancing. Freeze Kirby is actually pretty unique, so I won't lump him in with Ice Kirby. Ever since Kirby Right Back At Ya, Ice Kirby has been decently consistently portrayed with the crown adorned with the star and some ice chunks on his head. But wait, he has useless visor in Right Back At Ya. I can't come up with a reason for why it's even there, so I guess that's why they removed it going forward. Speaking of things that disappeared for seemingly no reason, here's Leaf Kirby. He has foliage on his head because it's Leaf Kirby, and he's a leaf-shaped gem on his head. Tornado Kirby has little wind swirls on his crown, and seems to have design elements from the Bluster element in Kirby in the Forgotten Land. Water, meanwhile, has water waves, but lacks a gemstone in favor of more gold in the shape of a water droplet. Next is Modern Stone Kirby, who looks to have stone tablets lining his head like a crown. I have no idea why he has horns, but look, rocks on his head. Last are Spark and Plasma. If you squint, Spark's crown looks like an electrical cord, and Plasma has a lightning bolt crest. In the anime, Spark Kirby's crown looks a lot more technological, and he's colored green like Plasma for some reason. Let's talk about Stone again. I'm sorry. In Superstar and its remake, as well as Kirby Squeak Squad, he has the same hat as Ninja Kirby. In turn, Ninja Kirby has a ninja-inspired cap. Who knew? However, the reason they share this look is because of the Kawarimi, a stereotypical ninja technique in which the ninja's body is replaced with an object. In Kirby's case, it is a stone. Ninja Kirby in later games is depicted with a cowl and a ninja headband. Next on the docket is Beam and Mirror Kirby. Beam has retained the hat between the two, and seems to take inspiration from jesters of medieval times, famous for being the era where magic was real. Hence, he uses a beam rod. This seems to be the reasoning for why he is the Beam Mage in the Kirby Clash games. Mirror Kirby shares a sprite with Beam because he looks like fellow Kirby character Marx, who splits himself in half, sorta like Mirror Kirby's attacks. He also gets a lighter shade of pink to correspond with this. In newer games, Mirror has actual mirrors on his hat, while retaining the general shape of the hat, probably for the sake of consistency. Now with that out of the way, let us discuss Sword and Bomb. Sword Kirby's cap is pretty clearly derived from Link of the Legend of Zelda, supported in later games with the move Sky Energy Sword. Sword also plays the role of the knight in the Kirby Clash games, just like Link. Bomb Kirby's cap, meanwhile, seems to be based on the Sword ability's cap because Link also uses bombs. Link also did wear blue tunics prior to the release of Kirby Superstar, but they had nothing to do with his bombs. It also may have simply been derived from the hats worn by the Poppy brothers. The newer bomb hat resembles a fireworks cone, which explains why the bomb ability has been more fireworks oriented in recent games, you know, if you consider 2011 to be recent. Then we have Paint, Yo-Yo, and Wheel. These abilities all get backwards caps because they aren't your grandma's copy abilities. Paint Kirby has been MIA since Superstar Ultra, but in Kirby Right Back At Ya, he was seen donning roller skates, probably because of fellow Kirby character Paint Roller. Wheel Kirby is differentiated by the red hat, and Yo-Yo Kirby gets a band-aid. However, Yo-Yo Kirby also seems to have taken inspiration from Ness of the Mother series games, who also uses a yo-yo. Lastly in this category is Fighter and Suplex, but I'm throwing in Backdrop and Pro too. They all have headbands because they work out. Prior to the modern games, these guys looked identical aside from two being red and the other two being blue. Fighter Kirby later got a star on his headband to differentiate himself, and Suplex Kirby turned his headband into a wrestling belt. My best guess for why Backdrop and Throw didn't get different headbands was because Fighter and Suplex weren't in Nightmare and Dreamland. If you want to be generous, Throw Kirby's headband in the anime is slightly purple. Okay, before I move on to the GCN exclusive hats, let me get these ones out of the way. Cleaning Kirby wears bandana, because what else do you wear when you're cleaning? Hammer Kirby is far more interesting though. The headband he dons is a hachimaki headband, which people in Japan wear when making mochi, usually with a mallet. The enemy Rocky also has this headband in many games. Now let's discuss the cutter ability cap. I have no idea what this is supposed to be. The wings and brim tell me it's a duck, but if you have a better idea what it is, make a comment. Alright, let's run through some hats that only showed up in Kirby GCN's trailer. I won't be talking about all of them, but some of them do have small differences, like the gem on Fire's crest being a hexagon. Gleam most closely resembles its appearance in the anime, which lines up with how Fire looks like its anime incarnation. Hammer Kirby instead wears a construction helmet, kinda like the Stone Bomb power combo in Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards. The actual reasoning though is obviously the fact that hammers are used in construction. Water Kirby looks about the same as his anime incarnation, being made of water. His hat is different though, closely resembling the final product. Lastly is the bomb hat, which looks like a party hat. This lines up with the bomb helper in the game being a clown. Now I am sad that we will likely never see this game as it was, so let's move on to more official hats. Alright, let's cram these into one category. Here we have Sleep, Crash, Mike, Cook, Copy, and Festival. I already went over Light and Paint, but I'll throw Magic in here too since it was limited use in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. Sleep Kirby wears a traditional sleeping cap that is often seen on the game over screens. Cook Kirby wears a chef's hat, simple enough, and Copy Kirby has a visor he uses to copy or analyze the data of his enemies, which doesn't seem to have any particular origin. Magic Kirby wears the expected magician's hat, which even contains a tiny Kirby. Crash Kirby has had two distinct looks, one in the anime and one from the modern games. In the anime, he wears what looks to be a crown with a gem resembling an explosion. In the modern games, he wears what is definitely a crown with an explosion contained inside of it. These hats are designed to be grandiose in reference to the power of the ability. Festival Kirby is very likely created to celebrate Kirby's 25th anniversary, explaining his existence. The hat itself seems to be based on shako hats, supported by the colorful plumage. Finally, Mike Kirby has many hats, with the default being headphones. His attack hats, however, are all very different. One uses a megaphone, like a sports fan wearing a cap. The second attack uses a desk mic, like an announcer. Once again, he wears headphones. The final attack has Kirby sporting a mohawk and a stand mic, referencing the rock genre of music. Did you know that when FLAGSHIP wasn't busy being shut down, they made Kirby games? Needless to say, they really liked adding abilities. For example, Metal, where Kirby turns into metal. Not really doing a great job at justifying the creation of this video. But what about Cupid Kirby? Well, he's a little more interesting. Mostly because Nintendo screwed up in Triple Deluxe's translation and called him by his Japanese name. So what else is there from FLAGSHIP? There's Missile, whose hat is just the nose of the missile he turns into. Animal's hat seems to be based on its sources Gaga and Gao Gao, who both in turn look like an amalgamation of all sorts of different animals. They also made Bubble Kirby, who wears a children's shower cap. Originally, the developers were apprehensive as they were unsure if those were still in use, and they weren't sure why the bald Kirby would wear a shower cap. Lastly, we have Ghost Kirby, who looks like a traditional Western bedsheet ghost. These next two sections are really just cleanup from whatever's left over, so I'm lumping all these guys together. Here we have Freeze Kirby, who is undoubtedly based on Popo from Ice Climber, specifically Super Smash Bros. Melee appearance. Both Nightmare and Dreamland and Melee were directed by Masahiro Sakurai and developed by HAL, strengthening this connection. High Jump Kirby is depicted as having a circlet with little wings on the sides as well as a cape. The circlet's wings bring to mind Mercury of Roman mythology, as well as Roma and Hermes. These deities share many traits typically associated with superheroes, such as super speed, a protective nature, and flight. The ability source, Starman, has clear superhero inspirations in the way he flies, and Kirby's cape is also colored the same as many other heroic characters in fiction. Laser Kirby's visor may be based on that of Cyclops from X-Men, but it's not explicitly confirmed to be the case. Ball Kirby is a unique case because I have no idea what that is supposed to be. My best guess is some sort of rubber cap. Since I went over it with Fire, his Nightmare and Dreamland icon looks like he's sporting a golden wreath or something. You tell me. Kinda like how Cutter's hat doesn't seem to have any particular inspiration, neither does Needle. In the anime, he's given a chin strap. I assume it's so the helmet doesn't fall off when he sticks to walls. Last in this section is UFO, a full body transformation like Ghost Kirby. As his name suggests, he's based on a UFO, but in Planet Robot he gains a set of antennae he presumably uses for transmission purposes. It also makes him more closely resemble the saucer transformation from Epic Yarn. This is a pretty small section, but here we have Wheelie Rider, Jet, Wing, and Wrestler. Wheelie Rider just has a stereotypical biker's helmet with some goggles to protect his eyes that he never wears. That is, unless you count the sunglasses in his superstar portrait. Jet Kirby, just like Wheelie Rider, does not wear his eye protection, except in the anime and in the superstar portrait. Oh, and his hat is just a fighter jet. Wing has the unique distinction of dishing out cultural appropriation, as his appearance in earlier games had stripes in place of his blush marks, appearing similar to a chief donning face paint during war. This has since been removed, but once you put something on the internet, it is there forever. Anyways, the reason he had marks in the first place was because his hat is based on the Native American headdress. Wrestler's mask, on the other hand, takes inspiration from Mexican luchador masks, first popularized by wrestler Cyclone Mackey. Unlike most lucha libre masks, Kirby does not cover the lower half of his face. This is because his face covers nearly all of his body. Hey, have you ever wanted to know about the abilities that first appeared on the poor man's Wii U? This section is for you. First is Artist Kirby, who makes quirky comics on Twitter about how much he hates his hobby. Maybe Kirby should get a new hobby then. Maybe Kirby should stop whining about something he was never obligated to commit to. His beret is largely based on fellow Kirby character Adeline's hat. Staff Kirby is based on Sun Wukong, also known as the Monkey King. He has the same golden headband with a hat similar to Staff's corresponding friend Jammer Jab, and a seemingly magic staff based on Sun Wukong's Rui Jinu Bang. Last of the Star Eye's abilities is Spider. He doesn't have much interesting going on as far as hats go, but the hat's eyes and Kirby's real eyes add up to a total of 8 eyes. Same goes for his legs. How clever. Now we have the new abilities from Forgotten Land, with the first of them being Ranger. Kirby's attire is that of an explorer with proper gear in tow. These hats are commonly called safari or sun helmets. His weapon appears to be a blunderbuss. Then there's Drill Kirby, whose helmet has a drill hoisted onto it with a visor protecting Kirby's eyes. Because humans don't wear drills on our heads, there's no deep real-life inspiration behind the design. However, drills have been used by Kirby in the past. This section is one of the largest, so I'll try to be brief in my explanations. Whip Kirby's hat is probably based on Indiana Jones' style, and Spear has medieval style headband fitting right alongside the soldier Waddle Dee's. Other simpler hats include Bell and Dr. Kirby, both giving him appropriate outfits. Bell Kirby appears to be wearing a church bell in particular. Archer Kirby dons a Tyrolean hat, also known as a bicocket hat. This type of hat is often associated with Robin Hood, an archer. Beetle Kirby's helmet, like Beetling Hornhead, is based on the Japanese rhinoceros beetle. However, it resembles a samurai helmet as well. Rhinoceros beetles in general are very popular in Japan and show up frequently in media that originate from there alongside stag beetles. I've held off on Poison Kirby because while he is similar to the elemental abilities, he does have some unique points. The skull emblem references the corrosive danger of Kirby's poison, and the crown is colored like a coral snake, which is considered toxic and venomous. Circus Kirby's hat looks to be an amalgamation of a clown's face with 2 circus tents. Finally, of the normal abilities, we have ESP, which takes clear inspiration from Ness, just like Yo-Yo Kirby. He even wears his cap sideways, and the colors of the brim and cap are just swapped around. Interestingly, concept art has the colors identical to that of Ness. In this final section, we have Hypernova and the super abilities. Hypernova Kirby gets his coloring from the Miracle Fruit, which in turn is based on that. Not sure what the fruit has to do with rainbows, but we can look to the word Hypernova for answers. Hypernova refers to a collapsing star, and Big Bang, its Japanese name, refers to the aptly titled Big Bang. Both events are depicted as very colorful, just like Kirby in this form. The super abilities are far easier to explain. Really, they're just souped up versions of the default ability, and with more stars added on. However, I would like to go deeper into Monster Flame and Snowball's hats. Monster Flame's crest now more clearly resembles rising flames, and Snowball is more about snow than ice. His hat now more closely resembles ice cream, although made out of snow. I'm going to make this ending segment brief because I don't like editing. Thanks for watching the video, unless you just skip to this part. If I feel like it, I'll make another video going into alternate costumes for abilities, upgraded hats, robot armor modes, and maybe even covering the extra epic yarn or anime hats.